Okay, so we're recording the meeting. Let's go ahead and give status updates. I can start. I did not write any code for the life cycle or image util this week, but I've been keeping my eye on some stuff that came in. We participated in the bug bash for this QCon this week, got a few PRs to image util from that. Which like in process of being reviewed and hopefully merged. Not too much else exciting to share from my side.
Let's see, I put a PR in for some doing some mocking of the layer metadata restore thing. So I got a PR in there looking for reviews on that. And that's basically all I've done right now. So.
I don't have any special updates to share this week. I hope that next week I'll start working on one of the stack packs issues.
Because we were seeing some of those registry failures, I was looking at the replacing the registry with something that wasn't Docker network dependent. As somebody saw too over in image util, there's a PR up for it, but it does seem like that alternative registry is behaving a little differently. So still turning away at that. I can put that on the agenda as a discussion topic if y'all have any more thoughts about it.
Any more updates? If not, we can move on to release planning. I don't know if anybody saw the PR to image util, but Juan Bustamante, who is a new member of the CNB contrib team at VMware, put up a PR in image util to fix a bug with our retry logic when we get an EOF error. We're always retrying even when the error is nil. So the consequence of that is adding 300 milliseconds to every successful pull, which seems bad. And I think we should cut a patch for that. Does anybody disagree?
Which bug is that? I didn't see it. What number is it?
I'll post it just a second.
Okay, thank you. Awesome. I didn't see it, so I was curious.
Actually, then we can just share so we have something common to look at. You can all see this, right?
Probably affects pack 2, right?
Yeah. Yep. I think, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think pack is like almost ready to ship in a new release. Is that correct?
We are talking about it right now. We might push back the freeze, etc., since we like shipped a patch directly in the middle of our last release and our scheduled current release. So
I think Javier said he's not opposed to cutting a patch. Seems like the right thing to do.
yeah.
So I guess that was the only thing that came to my mind that would go in this patch, unless anybody else has an idea. Look at the issues. Why is this? Any other things that we could sneak in, but I don't think so. Yeah. All right, so we're in agreement that we should ship a patch release. I guess maybe it makes sense to also talk about the next milestone, which I guess is covered by this Stack Packs Phase 1 issues. I think, as Jesse said, we have a PR up for this one. And Marty from Red Hat said he'd be looking at this one. So does anyone have interest in working on other issues? I guess.
I have 2 issues inside to me. As I said, I hope that I'll start working on them next week.
We can maybe, I mean, I don't know how everyone else feels, but maybe we could-
If anyone wants to work on one of them, sure, you're more than welcome, of course. I mean, it will be.
Yeah, I think the third one is blocked by the fourth one, right? I think Analyze needs to do the mixing information before you can start on the fail on that, I believe.
I mean,
Or is that right?
can we start working on this, like at least like with some unit tests and without testing it, like?
I would think so, right? If the format's
Yeah.
clearly defined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
If you assign me one of these, I'll work on it.
Yeah, you can assign me whichever one as well. One of the last 2 that don't have a face on it. I may not be able to get to it next week, just FYI, but if I can, I'll do it.
Dan, I feel like you have some like good knowledge of mix-ins. Would you be up for this one?
I don't know about good knowledge, but I'm happy to learn. Give it to me.
All right.
Be
Awesome.
happy to pair on that as well if we have
Okay.
time.
Yeah. yep,
Medium
thank you.
quality knowledge about mixins.
That's generous too.
I'm just teasing.
And Jesse, you said you'd be up for a different one?
Yeah, the validate stack IDs. I think that's the last one. That's
Oh yeah, and you also looked at this before. So.
yeah, it had my face on it once before. So.
The only other comment that I'll make about these issues, let me know if you disagree, but for this one, validating the registry credentials, we had reports from users of Tecton, and I saw in my own experience that the current way that the life cycle is checking to see if it has an auth is very brittle. So if you forget the trailing slash at the end of your registry URL, it all breaks. And I wonder if it's worth, like, maybe sneaking in a possible fix for that with this issue. I don't want to delay. Again, StackPax is our top priority, but while we've got that code, all in our context.
Do you want to edit as part of this issue? Or do you want to edit like?
Yeah, I was going to say add another issue to
Add
track
another
it. I
one.
think.
Yeah.
So someone can find it if they're experiencing problems
Yeah.
today anyway.
I agree.
Okay, so we'll
Yeah,
add
totally
another
fine.
issue and not work on it until after StackPax.
No, I think we could put it in. Like if it gets bumped, it gets bumped. But I think it's something that we could put in the milestone. Like it's small enough, to me at least. It sounds impactful enough to put in there, and it's sort of related in the validation sense.
Anybody strongly disagree?
Does someone want to own that so I can assign you on our notes? Just like making the issue, not actually doing it.
I could make the
Sound
issue.
like it sounded like you had experience there, right, Natalie? I don't.
I have, and I'll talk to Javier as well. I think he also ran into this, so he might have more detailed logs and stuff like that to share. All right, so this is nice. We have faces on every issue, which is exciting. I guess if we've covered anything else to say on release planning. All right, so if not, let's go on to needs discussion. let's see if there is one, actually, we should probably address this. There's one spec packs issue that has a needs discussion tag on it. Given that RT is looking at it, maybe we should just try to resolve whatever uncertainty might be there. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, the question was the format of analyzed TOML, but I think that's been resolved by the spec PR. So
Yeah, and if it isn't resolved, we should make sure it gets resolved before he starts working on it.
yeah. Jesse, do you mind taking this one, like commenting?
Sure.
Okay, awesome.
Yep.
Thank you. And I think if we just ignore the other stack pack ones for now, we were kind of leaving this one open because of the ongoing exploration around build kit. I don't know if everyone saw Eric's presentation was it last Thursday or Thursday before? It was great. I personally am now finding it difficult to keep in my head all of the open questions and possible enhancements to the POC that we identified. So we were thinking about reaching out to Eric and asking him if he'd be open to like opening a few issues on his repo to keep track of them. So that like discussion, more targeted discussion around specific things could be had, versus like this very, very long single issue in pack.
I wonder if it's worth, like, do we eventually want the build kit front end to be part of the Buildpacks project, right? Should we be creating an RFC for build kit front end? I guess that's a broader group question, but I feel like that's like eventually in the end state, we want to own this, right?
Maybe that would be a better inquiry of Eric instead of, can we open a bunch of issues? Like, can we open an RFC to track and discuss all the open questions? Cool.
Do we want to keep this issue like labeled as it is right now? Because every week we're like clicking and then saying, okay, we'll keep it as is. So I'm just wondering, maybe we can, mark this as blocked on build kit RFC. I don't know, something like this.
I can imagine exporting a tarball to be useful, like totally taking build kit out of it, but it seems like this isn't just a needs discussion. It's like we need an RFC for how we would, what the spec would look like if you want to export a tarball.
So maybe we can just change it from needs discussion to needs RFC
I like
and
it.
write a comment about it. I don't know, just an idea.
Oh, wait, no, it requires RFC, more formal.
We could rename that if it's weird. I can just pick one word.
Yeah, side note, the build kit example was really good. The demo of that. Like, I really look forward to doing that. I think we've got some challenges to solve, like around caching and stuff, but it was super exciting to see how easy that could be.
I don't mind adding a comment to the last response from Eric on that pack issue, inviting him to write an RFC. And this is something that we talk about, maybe in like a small, I don't know, we've had side conversations on our team, but would it be appropriate to offer, like, to pair with him or to help him in some way with the RFC if he's not, super, like he's in different time zone, all that stuff?
For sure. I think there's like two ways we could approach this in my mind, just spitballing here. like we could either write an RFC that sort of describes what we want the whole build kit thing to look like in the end, right? And then either re-implement it basically, or take his implementation and change it and then contribute it. I think the other thing would be, now that we've approved the RFC for component level contributions, like maybe we want to talk with him about whether he wants to contribute what he has, and we can throw a big disclaimer at the top that's like, this is a work in progress, and then we could write an RFC with him for how to evolve it to do all the things in the spec.
Third approach we could take is, because this already exists, we could create library methods only for this without changing the spec or the RFCs. Like lifecycle doesn't have to, like he's not calling the lifecycle binaries to do the export. So we could make helper methods that like wrap up some of the functionality that he's having to duplicate. And the only consumer would be this build kits project for now. Like, just start supporting, integration through the library itself that isn't spec'd in RFC or anything. It might allow us to kind of experiment with this, and he could submit pull request against it to change behavior or whatever if we need to be.
Sounds like either way we should talk to him about, tell him how excited we are and that we would love to bring this to fruition and figure out a plan, right? I know Javier had been working with him, so maybe I can take the action to reach out to Javier, and then the two of us can talk to him.
Thanks, Emily.
No problem.
I think we covered what we wanted from this issue. So I'm going to go back to our RFCs, next standing item. Does anyone have comments they'd like to share about?
Nothing major. I was curious if any of you all had thoughts about the build right conversation we had in working group yesterday.
I liked the idea of starting to fail aggressively here so that we could come to a solution, because my instinct tells me the build right is not what we would pick if we were designing it from the ground up. And so like, if we were already disallowing this, then I think we would have already come, like we could add a flag in to allow that behavior, like the old legacy behavior or something like that, but start aggressively disallowing it by default, writing to other layers.
That makes sense to me. I know Joe was concerned about breaking build packs. But I think we could aggressively disallow it for build packs that implement a new API. Like we can make some sort of cutoff so we're not breaking old build packs, but there's no upgrade path anymore. And then you have to adapt to the new flow.
Agreed.
I feel like if we treat it like Ben wanted to treat it like a bug fix, basically, and just change the behavior so that we implement the spec, which says you can't write to these things and ship it, but practically, I think that would cause problems that we probably don't want to do. And also, I think the way the spec is written right now, it'd be impossible to just start enforcing it. Like you'd need to do something like what's laid out here, where you basically tar up the layers during the build phase and then pass them to the exporter. That would require some reimagining of how this works.
Yeah, I can't say that I've had a lot of experience building build packs that write to other build packs layers. It's not something that I've myself had to do. But the use case, I guess, makes sense from like a micro build pack perspective of things that like to be co-located. Or have to be co-located, I guess, because yeah, the invars like solve most of the problems for anything that I've dealt with. Like you could just sort of keep passing that along and append it and do what you need to do.
The problem of the build bomb seems a little scary. Feels like a lot of responsibility to put on any build pack, right? You know, either the build pack that created the layer running at the end, like still annoying to have to figure out what changed, or you know, individual build pack contributing to that layer. It's like it's the same problem, right?
Yeah, not every set of buildbacks takes the responsibility of making a 100% accurate bomb seriously, and that's fine because it's an optional part of the spec, right? But I do think we should set up the API such that a build pack that wanted to take that seriously had the hooks that it needed to do it, right?
Yeah, I don't think any of our build packs even produce a bomb right now. Or at least not a lot of them. Yeah, I mean, the one thing that worries me about the build right flag is that it basically has to be your like Android SDK build pack that does that. So it sort of stifles integration for like a build pack that maybe doesn't even know that that's a flag that they could set to let other build packs do it. It just means that in isolation, someone kind of has to let you know that they would like to write to your layer so that you update your build pack to be able to write. So I kind of don't like the direction it has to go.
Yeah, I agree with you. The reason I sort of brought this one up as the RFC I want to talk about, because, well, personally, I haven't run into this problem in the build packs I've written, but the examples do make sense to me. But I think the solution here, I don't love. I feel like of the options we've come up with, it's either like a bit of an ugly interface, or it requires build packs to be very careful. And I don't think we've come to the best version of this yet. So I'm curious to get all of you folks who know a lot about the life cycle to brainstorm on this one. Like, is there some much better way of doing this that we haven't thought of yet? Because I think all of these feel like a little brittle and ugly right now.
The closest one that felt right to me is slices, and that's because it feels much more like Docker commands doing snapshots. Like it's not quite the same, but that's kind of what I want, is actually like Docker snapshots. Like I want that particular, you know, Conoco snapshot of like the layer when it's done with the when the first build pack's done, so that you could apply it over. And then, you know, maybe there needs to be the ability so that build pack knows that someone modified something for cache busting reasons, but that sounds super complicated. I'm not really sure how you can reliably deal with cache if someone else is writing to your layer. You won't have all the information.
Yes, we could like cache deltas if you did some sort of snapshot, like you're overlaying, like you do it as overlays and snapshots in the layer. A real like tank performance though. But
yeah, that's the only safe way I see. Like actually doing the overlay stuff is like one of the only ways to like completely safely do it, or at least take a snapshot before, still leave the code there, and then like snapshot again, and then like diff them like with just tarball diffs or something. But
I think I also feel like they need to go in a different place. Like, I don't like the idea of them being the normal Buildpacks layer, which really isn't supposed to be a workspace that downstream Buildpacks know about. And like, yes, environment variables can make it so you don't need to know, but if you want downstream Buildpacks to then like contribute metadata for their diff or something like that, they will need to know some things about the fact that this is a layer that they're contributing to in a shared environment, right?
I think I found Steven's suggestion for preventing the shared layers from being exported to be compelling. Just from a, like,
The Android SDK example was a good counterpoint though, because in that case, you really do want it to be exported.
It seems from an audit perspective, it seems really odd to like allow someone to modify someone else's layers, right? Because you just won't know, like, you know, you look at the image and it looks like it's just by Android SDK and you're like, oh, they committed this really suspicious file. And really it's like build pack X from like 10 build packs down.
Anyways, I don't think we're gonna get to a resolution right now, but I just wanted to get you all thinking about it.
I had just one on the RFCs, one more thought related to the disambiguate layer metadata files. I missed the second half of the working group where this was discussed, so I'm looking forward to going and reading the notes about what was said. But Emily, after reading your comment, I'm scared and I don't want to do the proposed option. It seems really complicated. Not impossible, but like, ouch.
Oh, the compatibility
Yeah,
comment.
yeah.
Like, I think there's no way around it unless we wanted to. Like, if we ever want to change our directory structures, it's going to be a thing.
Yeah.
You know?
We just need to be very thoughtful about like making it now like the right way. So we want to do it.
Yeah. Like we
in
should
a-
not churn on this. We should make it so it's extensible. Right?
Yeah.
To me, that kind of like is sort of a, like, I almost want us to align these two, right? If we like end up adding shared layers directory or something like that, that changes, you know, they should be compatible. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right?
Agree with that. I sort of started writing up that comment just to think through it myself to see if it was possible to still support all the API combinations we do now. Because another option is just like we say, no, we won't run this combination of APIs, but that's really hard on end users. But in writing it up, it did seem like it was all possible.
Yeah. I think if we're confident that we've arrived at something we're going to be happy with for the long term, then whatever effort it is required will be worth it. It's just like,
Yeah, it's annoying, right?
Or we can just throw away compatibility and like, who cares? I'm kidding. I mean, no way.
all right, if there are no more comments on RFCs, we reached the end of our standing agenda. Mike, I know you mentioned the image util thing. Do you want to talk about that or anybody else?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about it unless anyone wants to do something else. And feel free to drop if you don't want to get into the intricacies of registry deletions. Drop a gist I just put together in this chat. The preface, or I guess the one-liner is that
Do you want to share?
the
Mike?
way.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, let me get that. Sorry, pull it up first. Okay, here we go. The way that image util deletes from registries behaves differently on different registries. Let me share this one, and I'll jump over to this. So I put together a very poor approximation of what image util does for image remote delete. Just doing GGCR libraries, and this is obviously not a complete main go. but it basically takes a name reference, takes the digest, and then makes a new reference for it, and then tries to delete it based off of the repo name in the digest, ignoring the tag. And the response from each registry is different. So I just doing a go around of this main Go with some more harness around it, making a brand new image on GCR and then deleting it by digest. At least for GCR, it leaves the image manifest there. The hypothesis, at least for me there, is that I guess it does return a dangling manifest tag response. But yeah, the manifest is still there, which is weird. When you try to query it by the name again. The GGCR, the test registry, the thing that I'm experimenting with on that PR, does the same thing as GCR. Harbor does actually delete the image and returns no response, except it gives you back a not found Docker distribution. Just running a local one, not the Docker Hub, because it doesn't allow any deletions. It doesn't return the image either, but it gives you yet another error manifest unknown. So all this is a little perplexing to me. Wondering if y'all spot anything strange I might be doing. Maybe missed copying the implementation, or if y'all, yeah, I don't know. I'm also happy to just keep digging into it. This is just interesting stuff I stumbled on so far.
May I ask a quick question? How did you figure out that this is how did you start working on this? Did something happen and then you saw?
Yeah, well, I'm grateful for Jesse. He was doing a review of the image util PR that I put up there. And he spotted that it was actually meaningful. And this was the PR to change from Docker distribution to the GCR registry for our tests. Motivation for that is mainly to work around all the Docker networking problems we've had. So there's one thing that I ended up changing the test that actually was significant. Their response, when there's absolutely nothing in the registry, their error response in the different registries, when you try to delete something, it's different. It says name unknown from GCR and manifest unknown from Docker distribution.
It's like that's exactly.
So this just led me down a whole rabbit hole of deletion.
That having a spec should fix.
Yeah, and the spec is a little hand wavy about it. I think I might have lost the link to it.
I've seen
but
inconsistencies like this across registries before, so I'm not totally surprised about the return codes.
Okay.
Do you know if deleting from a tag makes them consistent? Is it deleting by digest that's the problem?
So I think deleting by tag should be supported by most repos. It may not lead to you deleting the underlying image or just deleting the tag that points at it. And some registries don't support deleting the underlying image, but instead rely sort of on like garbage collection policies. So registries like Artifactory, like you're never going to go delete an image. Instead, you're just going to delete tags, and then periodically it's going to clean up dangling images. So I wonder if we should be. What's interesting is I think the way we use this in lifecycle, like just very specific to our use case, not like image util as a whole concept, is that we use it for the cache image, like we create a new one and then we delete the old one. But when we create the new one, we move the tag that was on the old one. So there's really nothing left to delete if you're only going to delete the tag. But on some of these registries that don't clean up dangling images, you probably do want to go delete by digest.
Is that really a lifecycle problem? Like I kind of feel like that's your registry choice problem. Like if deleting a tag and they don't eventually clean it up, that seems like, I mean, I guess it would be a good citizen move to do it the way we're doing it, but I'm not really, yeah, I don't feel too strongly that we should be doing that anyway.
Like we could just stop. It gets kind of annoying in Docker with pack. I guess like if you're using a local registry or something, right? But I guess most people are using the daemon in that case.
You have to enable
Um,
deletions anyway if you're using like a local like distribution, for instance. They don't even come by default with deletes enabled. So you just
Yeah.
get errors anyway today, I think.
You can just leave it as an exercise to the user to delete your image. Like maybe we just overthought it and we shouldn't do it.
It feels like we haven't heard too much feedback from users finding this a problem, right? Or have we?
I don't think so.
There were cases where it was broken on certain registries and we've fixed those and that was a problem. But I don't know if we stopped cleaning them up, whether anyone would notice or care. I guess if you end up paying huge bills for storage on whatever cloud you're using, you might care eventually.
Yeah, I'd be really curious to see if your example here is consistent with like just moving a tag or deleting a tag. If it's consistent, because if it is, like I'd be motivated to just see if users care in like a couple months, if we just stop deleting the digest directly.
I wonder if just thinking about image util as a library, the way image util is architected now, if you call delete on an image, like if it has a tag associated with it, we should probably delete the tag. And then we can try to delete the digest, but not really check the error.
It's worth noting Docker distribution does throw an error if you try to delete by tag, I believe. So I wonder if we should just ignore both errors. Or, yeah.
I thought delete by tag was the only one they were all supposed to support.
This, at least according to the Docker's version of the registry, I think this is V2. Oh yeah, V2. It says reference must be a digest or delete will fail, and then don't know. Yeah, maybe moving. Maybe there's another way to delete of like moving the tag to some sort of delete mode or something would work, but
Yeah, I
it's
mean, we
just really
could try
surprising.
both and return an error if both of them fail.
Do you feel like a good next step is to start an RFC or something like that, or is there anything clear
I
enough
don't
that I
think
should
this is like
jump
a
on?
big enough. I don't know if we need like a RFC for this, I guess. Maybe
That would
now
be
that we
okay.
have sub-team specific RFCs, we could do like a smaller targeted RFC.
Okay.
I guess my only thought is I feel like within this group, we could make this decision. I don't know that anyone else cares about this level of detail. But
So
a
if you
sub-team RFC could work for them.
okay, and given I haven't done a sub-team RFC, I would like to. I can at least give it a shot and get used to the process. And then, but obviously, if the result of that is making a PR and get more discussion on there too, then fine with that. Does it also feel like this is worth blocking? We should figure this part out before we change to the in-memory registry, or before we can answer whether we want the in-memory registry or not.
I definitely want the in-memory registry. The speed performance should be substantial, and I think if we just make our test handle both, like I would be fine with that. Like personally, I think it makes it easier for users to set up, and it makes it less Docker dependent for some of this stuff.
Awesome. Okay, I'll proceed with that. I'll add some extra tests to the current PR, and then open up a RFC or a sub-team RFC for changing the behavior of delete. Thank you.
Can't hear you, Natalie. Is that just me?
It's not just you.
Sorry, I have a hardware mute as well. Sometimes I mute both of them and then I forget. Just Anything else anybody wants to talk about? Otherwise, we can joyfully have 17 minutes back in our day. Thanks, everybody.